Is the move all done? Hurry up and get out. There's no place for someone like you.
Saying that, my mother-in-law cackled over the phone. The sound was incredibly grating on my ears. Poor thing. She has no idea what kind of situation she's in now. For all the times she's belittled me, I'm going to show her plenty of hell from here on out. My name is Ashley, a 30-year-old housewife. I live with my husband, Christian. We both work to support our living expenses together. However, since Christian was clumsy with his hands, I had to take on most of the household chores, which meant I had to work from home. Christian has always been eager about having our own home since we got married, working hard for it. Seeing him like that inspired me to do my best as well. And so, about 2 years after our marriage, we finally got our dream home. New buildings are just so beautiful, and the flooring was sparkling. Let's work hard together from now on. To my words, Christian nodded firmly. I believed we could do it together. Christian insisted, and so we built our new home close to his parents' house. Apparently, my mother-in-law had come down with a mild illness. She wasn't in need of care, but it was worrying, so he wanted to keep an eye on her. My mother-in-law is my family too, even if by marriage. So, if she was in trouble, I wanted to help her, and so I accepted Christian's wish. I had no idea it would turn out like this. A few weeks after moving into our new home, my mother-in-law visited us. It was an unannounced visit, which caught me off guard, but I managed to serve some snacks we had at home. Sitting on the sofa and sipping the tea I made, my mother-in-law began to speak solemnly.
You know, Ashley, now that you're here, I'm going to be straight with you. What kind of wife are you?
I couldn't help but let out a surprised. What? Seeing my reaction, my mother-in-law sighed with a look of exasperation.
I heard from Christian that you're a good wife, but this is the best hospitality you can offer to a guest. I think it's odd you hardly ever show your face at your in-laws. A real wife would think to visit her in-laws if she's got time to be at home. If you've got free time at home, you should be coming over to help out at our place. Our place is different. We've got a lot to do. We're always short on hands. Got it?
All I could reply with was a foolish, yes. The mother-in-law I met when we got engaged wasn't like this. She was kind, cheerful, and seemed like a person easy to get along with. That was my first impression.
If you're in trouble, feel free to rely on me. There's a lot you're not used to. Take it slow. It's okay.
I was drawn by her gentle demeanor, but I never imagined she could change so much. To my hesitant reply, my mother-in-law frowned and said,
It seems you lack the spine to be a good wife. From tomorrow, I'll be coming here every day. Correcting a wife's crooked nature is also a mother-in-law's job, isn't it?
Saying that, she smiled as if she was enjoying herself. Meanwhile, I grimaced with anxiety about what was to come. Every day? Do I have to deal with my mother-in-law like this every day? Sweat dripped down my face from the anxiety of what might lay ahead. But regardless of how I felt, my mother-in-law finished her snack and left on her own, saying,
For cheap snacks, these were somewhat enjoyable.
That's when my days of hell began. True to her word, my mother-in-law came to our house every day. Her visits were at irregular times, sometimes in the morning, sometimes in the afternoon, never stable. I kept snacks ready every day, but still, my mother-in-law complained.
These cheap things again.
Thinking I might as well prepare something she liked from the start, I asked her, only to be met with the outrageous response.
Can't you even understand a mother-in-law's feelings? Oh, Ashley, there's dust over there. Clean it up again, right now. Oh, Ashley, if you hang clothes like that, they'll get damaged. Watch them again. Is that dinner preparation? Terrible. You're going to feed my son this.
My mother-in-law would complain about anything that caught her eye. Even if I thought there was no problem, if it bothered her, that didn't matter. One day, my mother-in-law visited on a holiday. Christian was off work that day and was at home. Yet, my mother-in-law bullied me just the same. Seeing me scurry around in response to my mother-in-law's demands, Christian pointed and laughed, saying,
Getting trained by my mom. You're lucky.
That day, after my mother-in-law went home, I desperately told Christian how hard her treatment was on me, but he wouldn't listen, brushing me off with.
My mom means well in her way.
Even when I insisted it was mentally tough, Christian began to get irritated, eventually shouting.
Do you hate my mom that much?
Feeling like it was pointless to talk, I stopped confiding in Christian. I began to feel my body wear down. Even though I was tired, I couldn't sleep once I was in bed. The anxiety for the next day attacked me before sleep could. I was sure to be complained about the next day. What will she say next? Such thoughts circled in my head. Gradually, even getting into bed became difficult, and I found myself working or doing house chores through the night. My body quickly accumulated fatigue and started to look haggard.
Ashley, what's with that face? Christian would be scared to come home to that. You look like a monster.
My mother-in-law laughed at my face. Wondering if my face was really that bad, I looked in the mirror to see dark circles under my eyes and my cheeks hollowed out. A self-mocking smile spilled out at the reflection that I couldn't possibly show to anyone else.
First off, you're truly incompetent, aren't you? Having a daughter-in-law like you, I wonder if Christian can even concentrate on his work. Just staying at home, can't even manage household chores properly, and on top of that, greeting with such a face. Really, it's just so pitiful for Christian. Ashley, you need to leave. Today. Okay.
Stunned by the sudden command to leave, I was at a loss. But my mother-in-law added,
You absolutely have to.
before leaving. If I defied her, she would surely say something even worse. Being mentally unstable, I just packed my bags and prepared to leave. A few minutes later, I received a message from her.
Are you done moving out? Hurry up and leave. There's no place for someone like you. Be thankful you could live in that house even for a little while.
Saying that, my mother-in-law laughed wickedly over the phone. Like a villain defeated by the hero, she conveyed how fulfilled she felt then. Following my mother-in-law's words, I left the house. The home we built to realize our dream. Then, I went back to my parents' house and explained everything to them. Knowing everything, my parents were furious but first made sure to let me rest, treating me to delicious food. There's truly nothing as reassuring as being home. I couldn't articulate my frustrations well, but my parents gently said things like, "So that's what happened, and you had a hard time." Thinking back, I hadn't been able to return home properly since dealing with my mother-in-law. Seeing their daughter so worn out after so long must have shocked them. Feeling ashamed for being such a disgraceful daughter, my phone vibrated. It was from my mother-in-law. Reluctantly, I answered, hearing her frantic voice.
You, come back, right now.
After insisting I leave, now she wants me back. I was appalled by her unreasonable and selfish demands, but something was off. When I heard the situation from her, my eyes widened in shock. It seems Christian, having returned home and realized I was gone, and likely having been visited by my mother-in-law today, had called her. Hearing that she had kicked me out, he was horrified. And for good reason. After all, the house we lived in was in my name. Despite both of us working, our living expenses were mainly covered by my salary. Christian, to put it mildly, was on a very modest income. It was unlikely he could afford a new house, and the dream of building our home was nearly crushed. Watching Christian do his best, I wanted to support him, which led me to decide on building our home. Since I took out the loan, the house naturally was in my name. Hearing this from Christian, my mother-in-law was in a panic. "I'm sorry, but I won't be coming back." To this, my mother-in-law pleaded.
Don't say that.
And
I was wrong.
I delivered the final blow. Also, since I'm not living there, I'll be vacating the house soon. Please take care of it.
Wait, just a moment.
Ignoring my increasingly panicked mother-in-law, I hung up the phone. To avoid any unpleasant calls, I blocked her number. The next day, I proceeded with vacating the house as I had declared to my mother-in-law. This meant Christian had no choice but to leave the house as well. Where he would go was no concern of mine. Afterward, I hired a lawyer, a friend of my father's, known for his skill. I had secretly recorded my mother-in-law's behavior and Christian's terrible actions and played them for the lawyer. He said,
With this, we can definitely claim damages.
I entrusted everything to my reliable lawyer and managed to divorce Christian. Following my lawyer's advice, I went to a hospital and was diagnosed with depression, which significantly increased the damages awarded. Christian sent me message after message, all pleading for reconciliation, apologizing, and begging me not to divorce him. Probably, without a home and on his modest salary, he couldn't afford the hefty damages. But I ignored all his requests and made sure I wouldn't receive any more messages from him. A few days later, while relaxing at my parents' house, the doorbell rang insistently. The monitor showed my mother-in-law and Christian, so I ignored them, but they banged on the door and called out loudly for me. My parents were out and couldn't return immediately, so reluctantly, I responded through the monitor. Hearing my voice, they quickly kneeled at the front door.
Ashley, I'm truly sorry. Please reconsider and start over with Christian.
I'm sorry for not having been able to support you well as you husband. I'll work hard to be your support, so please come back.
They were saying such convenient things. People who had tormented me and laughed when I sought help were now begging for my help. I couldn't help but snort, and hearing that, my husband shouted.
Why on earth are you laughing? Come out here, let me hit you once.
Christian raged at the front door. My mother-in-law backed away in fear. Feeling the situation was serious, I sensed the neighbors coming out. I was frozen in fear, unsure of what to do as Christian continued to pound on the door. Although it was sturdy, I worried it might break. As I panicked, help arrived.
What are you doing?
Shouted a police officer on the monitor, probably called by a neighbor. Christian was subdued and taken away. This incident led to our divorce and a substantial settlement. Their actions quickly spread among the neighbors, and they faced much embarrassment. Having always demeaned me, this seemed like just desserts. My former mother-in-law had visited my house without telling my former father-in-law, who, upon learning of the commotion, demanded a divorce. Despite her pleas, he was resolute, and they divorced. They sold the house they lived in and now reside in a dilapidated apartment, struggling with debt. After the incident at my parents' house, the damages I could claim from Christian increased significantly. It was more than he could ever afford on his modest salary. I demanded payment in full, so he resorted to loans and is now desperately repaying his debt. Both are working tirelessly, day and night, possibly even at construction sites. Having lost their home and burdened by debt, they quickly sought help from relatives. But knowing their actions, not a single relative sided with them, and they were shunned. Unable to turn to his father or blood relatives, and even friends cutting ties, they were left utterly alone. A mutual friend shared that they were desperately sending messages begging for money, which were ignored, followed by incessant calls, a clear sign of their desperation. It's likely no one is willing to help them now. This is the result of their self-centeredness. If only they had considered others more, maybe by offering me a helping hand, this outcome could have been avoided. Meanwhile, I'm healing at my parents' house, continuing my work, and have started dating a man who knows about my past and supports me. He's been understanding, helping with my work, and taking me to beautiful natural spots on weekends. My parents approve of him, seeing how often he visits. He's invited me to a jewelry shop soon, so a happy future with him might be starting. This time, I won't fail. I'll speak up about what I dislike and seek change before things break down. It's not just for me, but for us to remain happy together. Moving forward, I'll make sure not to make the same mistakes, and do my best.